Hi, today we're talking about the TOEFL speaking test, specifically part 1, the independent speaking question. Hi, it's Charlie. Welcome to Organic English. So for most people taking the TOEFL, the most stressful part of the test is the speaking. So today we're going to look at one part of the speaking test, the independent speaking question. That's part 1. Now I'm going to be doing a whole series of videos on the TOEFL, how to prepare for each part of the exam. So tune in for those, okay? So, what are we doing today? Today we're going to be looking at how the question is structured, how the raters will grade your answer, how to approach the question. Then we'll look at an example question and a couple of answers, one that scored highly and one that didn't score so highly, so you can compare. And finally, I'll give you some tips to help you practice for the task. Question 1 is the independent speaking question, so there's no reading or listening involved at all. It's also called the personal choice question because you'll be answering a question based on your own ideas, your own opinions, and your experiences. Now, the questions fall into 3 broad categories. Number 1 is the agree, disagree type of question. Here's an example to illustrate. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Celebrities should be able to use their popularity and money to help others. Give specific reasons to support your opinion. Now, the second type of question is where you make a choice between 2 contrasting options. For example, when people travel, some enjoy visiting places they've never been to. Other people prefer to return to places they've already seen. Which do you choose? Explain why. Now, the third type of question is where you will be asked whether you think something is a good idea or not. As an example, since students now all have laptops, the school decides to cancel the computer lab. Do you think it's a good idea or not? Give specific reasons to support your opinion. You probably noticed all the questions ask for your opinion in some way, and they ask you to explain why. They ask you to give specific reasons why you feel the way you do. So you will have 15 seconds to prepare your response, and you'll have 45 seconds to answer the question, to speak. Now, 15 seconds does not sound like a long time to prepare, but if you follow the ideas and tips that I'm going to give you, and you practice, you will get used to it. Now, moving on to the next point. Now, during your preparation, it's going to help to understand what the raters are looking for and how the questions are scored. Now, in this section, the speaking section, all the responses are scored on a scale from 0 to 4. Now, the raters are listening for various features in your response, and then they'll give it an overall score. So the 3 features they're looking at are delivery. This is defined as how fluently and clearly the candidate speaks about the topic, including flow, pronunciation, pacing, and intonation. So what this means to you is that your speech needs to be clear and it needs to be fluid, and your pronunciation has to be good. The pace or the speed of your speech should be natural, and you should have good sounding intonation patterns. The second feature is language use. Now, this is defined as how well the candidate uses grammar and vocabulary. Now, this means that the raters will be judging you on how well you use basic and complex grammar and sentence structures, and they'll be looking at whether your word choice is effective and appropriate. Third feature, topic development. Now, this is defined as how coherently the candidate uses the ideas and thoughts to speak about the points around the topics. Now, this is mainly how fully you answer the question, how clearly you express your ideas, and how you connect one idea to the next in a logical way and a way that is easy to follow. Now, for more details about how the responses are scored, you can go to the ETS website and check out the speaking scoring rubric. Now, it's very important to understand the raters do not expect your response to be perfect. You can still get a high score even if you make a couple of slips or errors. So don't freak out. Keep calm and carry on, as they say. Okay, so here are some ideas, some tips on how to approach the questions in part 1 of the speaking test. Firstly, listen to the item directions carefully and make sure you understand exactly what you need to do. Next, use the preparation time. Use this 15 seconds to organize your ideas. maybe take some notes, but don't try to write a full response. Don't try to write sentences because you won't have time. And it's also really important that you sound natural. You don't want to sound as if you are reading from something you prepared earlier. Another important point, vary your vocabulary as much as possible. Try and avoid repeating words. Use common connecting words and phrases and keep them short and efficient. For example, as a result, consequently, therefore. Now, what do I mean by short and efficient? Let me give you an example to illustrate, okay? I agree that celebrities should help others. I feel this way for 2 reasons. Avoid long transitions like I feel this way for 2 reasons. You could just as easily say because. I agree that celebrities should help others because. Another key point, I think you should avoid using idiomatic language unless you are very, very confident that you're using it in the right way. It could just lead to trouble. Now let's talk about structuring your response. You don't have to organize your response into an introduction, a body, or a middle, and a conclusion like you would in a written essay. It's best to speak naturally as if you're speaking to a friend. But having a basic structure in mind will really help during that preparation time, that 15 seconds. It'll help you organize your thoughts and ideas and focus. So here's a possible structure for an answer. Now this is just a guide to help you focus your thoughts and build your answer. The structure is really basic. It's intro, first reason, second reason. So in the intro, you need to state your opinion straight away. And depending on which question type you get, you could start with, for example, I agree or disagree with the idea that, and so on. Or I think it's better to, and so on. Or I think it's a good idea or a bad idea to. Then you give your reason and perhaps a personal example. A few good phrases to lead into your reasons are, first and foremost, to begin with, some good words and phrases to express your opinion, in my opinion, from my point of view, or even I think that, I believe that, I feel that. And the second reason, you could use the transition in addition or secondly or I also feel. Then you give your reason and perhaps a personal example to back up that reason. Now, of course, if you are a slow speaker, you can stick to just one reason and still get a good score. Now, keep in mind, real growth comes through practice. So the more you practice, the better you'll become at this. So that's just a very, very basic structure that you could use in your practice and on test day also. But of course, it's fine to not use that structure as long as you are stating your opinion, you are giving reasons for that opinion, and perhaps a couple of examples to back those reasons up. So let's move on to an example question. Some students would prefer to live with roommates. Others prefer to live alone. Which option would you prefer and why? I'm also going to give you 2 real answers, one that's scored highly and one that's scored not so highly, so you can compare the difference. As you're listening, think of the features that the raters are looking out for. The first one, delivery. Second one, language use. Third one, topic development.
On the one hand, I think to live with a roommate could be a good thing since you always have somebody to talk with when you have problems or things like that, and it's a good way to meet people. But on the other hand, you can't really do whatever you want. I mean, if you like parties and if your roommate does not, it's not a good thing for you. You are not free to do what you like, and it's not really interesting, and it's well, I live by myself and I'm very glad since I can do what I want. I have nobody to tell me what to do.
This speaker's response presents a clear progression of ideas. He chooses to discuss an advantage of living with a roommate before he describes the disadvantages, which, to him, are stronger than the advantage. He gives an example of how a roommate might be a problem, then states his preference, living alone, and relates it to his personal experience. His pronunciation is easy to understand, and he speaks very fluently. A few of his word choices are not precise, but this would not prevent a listener from understanding his ideas.
Some students will prefer to live with a romance. However, I prefer live in the Illuminism, because in this period there is
For the first part of his response, the speaker is only reading the question aloud and not actually answering it. His pronunciation is strongly affected by his first language, so the listener must make a great effort to try to understand what he is saying. His response is marked by long pauses as he tries to think of the next word to say, indicating that he possesses a very limited English vocabulary. The lowest level of the rubric describes the characteristics of this response.
Okay, here are some exercises that you can use to help you build the skills you need for the independent speaking tasks. So of course the best thing you can do is to find real questions from past TOEFL tests on the internet and practice them yourself. And you need to practice speaking continuously for 45 seconds. So it's essential that you have some kind of a stopwatch or a timer that you can use while you're speaking. Another fun task is to find a picture on the internet and speak about that for 45 seconds. Put yourself in the same situation as you would be for the test. So another thing you can do is to practice with native speakers or others who speak English well. So perhaps you could join an English club. Maybe you could form your own if you can't find one. Or find a tutor who can help you in the preparation. The key is to put yourself in a situation where you have to think about a topic and then speak for 45 seconds about that topic. The more you practice, the more you'll get used to quickly narrowing down your ideas and structuring a response. Now I hope that helps any of you who are practicing for TOEFL and are a little bit nervous about the speaking session. As I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a whole series of videos on the whole TOEFL exam. So stay tuned for that, okay? You can also go to my website, www.organicenglish.club, where there's plenty of other material that'll help you out. And of course, feel free to reach out to me in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Now go out and practice your speaking task 1.